Okay, now that we've done our whole pike series and working the lower abs, maybe you don't have all that. Maybe you just got a floor. Maybe you're fortunate that you got a med ball, foam roller. I'm gonna talk now about how to get the abs when you're on the floor, as well as how we can maximize our basic crunch positions. So first, if I am lying back on the ground, okay, again, when my low back comes off the ground, what is that? That's my anterior pelvic tilt. So first thing we're always gonna do is make my low back come flat to the floor. As my low back comes flat to my floor with my abs, what am I doing? I'm now going into my posterior pelvic tilt. So any kind of crunch from here is going to at least be isometric from the low abs, and then now I'm moving the upper abs. So that really is the anatomy of the basic crunch. Now, I can make that a greater range of motion if I take my foam roller, and this would be the same thing for a Swiss ball too, because the Swiss ball allows me to roll over the ball with a little extra instability. And again, if I have more unstable environment, I have to work more stability, which means I can't work as much intensity, but they're both good and they're both good to train. Why? Because in the real world, I'm in an unstable environment. So we want to have the proprioception. However, if I'm working for muscle mass so I can have more abs to show off, I want to be able to increase intensity. So these are always trade-off. Again, it's not about right or wrong, good or bad. It's about using the right tool for the right task. But if I take my foam roller, and again, I can put it in different positions. So as I roll back, the further I go back, here I am. So you got to find your balance point, but notice when I lay over, that's gonna be a big anterior pelvic tilt. So now I can really work the low abs here. As I now crunch, notice I'm not just holding the low abs. Okay, that would be the isometric, and now I have got a bigger range of motion for my crunch, but I can open, lift, crunch, come down, open, lift, crunch. So it's almost like a 4 count. So I go 1, lower pelvis, 2, crunch. Now it's a full crunch. 3, upper comes down, 4, lower comes down. Lower, upper, upper, lower, lower, upper, upper, and lower. That is actually a full crunch of the full lower and upper spine, which is going to be crucial because remember, in all of our training, the more we can take a muscle in its lengthened position and then full range. So again, a whole other series that we talked about, if you are trying to get hypertrophy and or strength, muscles that are trained in full range of motion or in their lengthened range of motion is always going to yield a better hypertrophy results with all their variables staying the same than if you just worked the shortened. Again, if I'm just working my biceps here, I'm gonna get a pump, but when I go in the full range of motion, or even if I went in the partial and down here, our science shows us that that is where we're gonna get the greatest amount of hypertrophy gains. So in the same way, if I'm just crunching all the time, it's like me working my biceps right here. We wanna open up all the way, and that is what is a benefit of the foam roller. It really allows me to open and close fully. Now, if you are so weak that you literally couldn't do that, we can always use a band. Hang a band from a suspension, a cable unit, or whatever, and you can use a light band to even assist you with the crunches. That would be a way to do a digression. However, the full range of motion is what we're looking for when we're doing the foam roller. Now, if I have a med ball, I can use a med ball in the same way as the foam roller. I can still put it behind my back. I can stretch. Again, there's my full range of motion. Lower pelvis, upper torso, down, and then drop the pelvis. Lower abs, upper abs, down, release. Again, as you get good at that, you can make it more fluid and less robotical. But at first, 1, 2, 3, and 4. I want you to learn how to get the control of those lower abs. Now, one thing I haven't talked about yet is head position. Head position is just as important because we don't want to be cranking on the neck. So I've been turning to the camera, but if I'm doing this by myself, I am always going to keep a neutral head position. So as my upper and thoracic spine moves, my head actually stays in the same position. I'm not doing this or this, all sorts of weird stuff. So now if you watch me from here, even though I'm crunching, again, if I had a ball right underneath my chin, notice that position stays the same the entire time. I'm not pulling on my head and I'm not doing this, creating the double chin. Keep the chin here. I'm also not doing this. Neutral. So that's not neutral. That's neutral. That's not neutral. This is neutral. Always ball right here. As the spine moves, my head stays in the same position. That will keep you from jacking up your neck.